Asami, I think I know who set us up. Hello, Mako.
Well, at least he seems to be an evil genius whose plan is not founded in fanatism and that could actually work. Hello out there, this is TheAnYPony and welcome to my analysis of The Legend of Korra, The Sting. Well, let's just say there have been some good aspects in there. But first things first, quick story recap. In the beginning, Varric's ship full of Asami's mecha tanks gets attacked. Unalaq does something spiritistic and he actually shows emotions for once. Varric's first propaganda video is a hit, with children. The police investigates the attack on the ship earlier. Marcos seems to be the only officer left who is neither stupid or corrupt. And stupid. Of course he gets dismissed. Only Asami has some smarts left and wants to give Marco's plan a shot. Varric provides once again his apparently unconditional support and they hire Triad members as muscles. Marco and Asami wait for the ship to also be attacked so they can find out who is behind it. While waiting, Marco overhears that they have been double-crossed by the Triads. Boat chase scene! While Marco and Asami had been distracted, Asami's warehouse had been cleared out and she is ruined. Marco expresses his support and Asami kisses him. Then Marco is looking for Varric at the set of Bolin's movie. There he discovers that Varric is behind all the bombings. Meanwhile, Varric took over Future Industries. Korra wakes up at a beach with amnesia. Side plots worth mentioning. Actually there haven't been any. Tenzin and his family were completely absent and all the shenanigans including Bolin becoming a star didn't really progress the story in any way. I still consider The Legend of Korra as one of the better current TV series, and since we pretty much are only halfway within the season, I don't want to be too hard on that episode. Therefore, I will be going over the aspects that did not work first and rather quickly, so we can end up on focusing on the good stuff. The focus of this episode more or less exclusively centered around the revelation that Varric is actually a bad guy and how he screwed over Asami. As much as I did not want this to happen, I have to admit that this is an interesting turn of events. I'm going to address that in a few minutes, because my problems are not related to the development of the overall plot, but to some plot elements within this particular episode. First, the police. We were all crying out loud how severely obvious Unalaq's betrayal had been foreshadowed when he is sitting alone in his throne room with his face in the shadows, and now we got those two laughingstocks. I have already been grinding my teeth last episode when they first appeared. Now they are back and even worse. They are not even trying to look subtle or competent. They bluntly jump to conclusions, poke fun at Marco in front of their boss and a witness, and act like childish goofballs. To top it all off, one of them is literally twirling his mustache. I despise those two characters, but not because they are obvious douchebags, but because they are written so poorly and without any effort. And as a consequence, Lin Beifong looks like a complete moron standing next to them and not understanding the true situation. And even Marco, the only character who seems to have any noteworthy amount of intelligence left, besides maybe Asami and Varric, is only allowed to say, "Lu and gang are idiots. I hate them and their stupid mustaches." Wow, my nephew hears tougher insults in kindergarten. I really hate it when the intelligence of normally smart characters gets reduced in order to make stupid elements work. Legend of Korra has kind of always done this, but so far it has been within reasonable amounts that were easy enough to brush off thanks to suspension of disbelief. But oh no, as soon as Lu and gang are involved, it feels like a ride on the stupid train. Maybe I'm only so critical about the next scene because that earlier stupidity sensitized me for bad writing. But come on! The way Marco finds out that the Triads are double-crossing them, he just happens to overhear them openly talk in normal speaking voice about their double-crossing and even mention that they have already talked about that earlier. Seriously? Those are leading members of one of the most powerful mafias in Republic City? Then they somehow managed to magically cut Marco and Asami off when just moments ago they were just chilling a few decks above. The interesting part about all this is that in a summary, the whole development sounds reasonable and thought through. Just listen to this. Mako represents evidence, but his superiors don't take him seriously and send him away. He and Asami organize a sting operation by themselves and hire triads to help them. Then they figure out that the triads have double-crossed them and they flee from the ship in a cool chase scene. There! The plot itself is not the problem, merely its implementation is poor. In other words, I still have hopes for the series as a whole, but the writing of the singular episodes has suffered recently. One short side note about the whole Bolin the movie star subplot. I really don't care. It is watchable and I can somehow see that with all the political drama, corruption and betrayal, a bit of lighthearted shenanigans is necessary to keep the show from getting too depressing, especially for the younger audience. All those scenes don't really do anything for me, but I'm not really put off by them either. Now for the good stuff. And to start with the big one, Varric. I personally don't like that my worries came true and my favorite character actually turned out to be a villain after all, so I don't really feel like doing the told you so dance. But biases aside, I have to admit this was played brilliantly and I completely fell for it. They went out of their way to make Unulak look as evil as possible. At the same time, they gave us this smart, funny and charismatic new character who is cool and helpful towards our heroes from the get-go. And of course you don't suspect the lovable lunatic to be evil when you are confronted with a creepy backstabbing uncle. But then again, this twist didn't come as much out of left field as it felt at first. I already questioned his moral integrity in the third episode when he pushed towards war, and while he kept helping Team Avatar, he openly demonstrated his corrupt and manipulative nature. Because he was only doing this in order to fight the bad guy, we didn't question it. But in retrospect, all his previous actions are coherent with his eventual betrayal, which is something I can't say about any other Korra villain so far. So yeah, well played Nickelodeon. But I really hope you do something awesome with Varric after you took him away from me as one of my favorite good guys. If he will be just a greedy, ruthless businessman from now on, and if you take his eccentric genius factor away, I will be really pissed. Well, what else? Are the writers going to correct their big mistake from season 1? Are Mako and Asami actually coming back together? God, I hope so! In season 1, Mako was Korra's super obvious love interest from moment number 1, with all the typical cliches. First they don't get along well until circumstances force them to work together and they learn to appreciate each other. It's predictable romance 101. When Asami entered, my initial skepticism was that she is the mean, bitchy rich girl who steals our main character's boyfriend just because. But this was quickly resolved. She was smart, nice, tough, honest and beautiful. But she ended up just being the obstacle the meant-to-be couple had to overcome for their happy ending. And I felt so bad for her. I admired her integrity that despite the way Mako and Korra treated her, she stayed loyal to the good cause and even turned against her father. I like Korra, but she is a piss-poor girlfriend. Asami, on the other hand, is not only better than Korra in pretty much every aspect except bending powers, she also has to go through so much and really deserves a bit of happiness. While I would have said that Mako does not deserve to get her back previously, he is recently redeeming himself. As in the previous episode, Unulak has only one short scene, but as with last time, it raises some rather interesting questions about his true motives. He is doing something in the spirit world and is rather secretive about it. After he emerges from the portal, he even shows emotions for the very first time within the series. I am becoming interested in Unulak and his plans again, especially since it seems to have something to do with the title of the season: Spirits. I have the feeling I forgot about something or someone. Who is the character this show is named after again? That's probably what the writers thought when they were nearly done with the script. But as much as I love poking fun of such a tacked-on scene for the purpose of a cliffhanger, and as cliché as an inconvenient case of amnesia is, Korra had become such an unlikable and annoying character that I actually welcome a reset like that. Now that she had been found by fire sages, I guess in the next episode they will try to restore her in some way that involves spirits. Maybe a trip to the spirit world or something. In conclusion, Even though this episode was on itself rather weak, it featured a few very promising developments for the overall plot. My anticipation for the episodes to come consoles my current feeling of disappointment. This is TheAnYPony saying see you soon.